inspirer of liberty. He doesn't want us to be slaves or servants to any tyrannical masters, be it at the state level or the federal level. We are free people. I have long thought that attorneys needed constitutional knowledge more than they seem to have. Attorneys, generally, to me, they want to focus on Supreme Court decisions or statutes. I want an attorney to focus on the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. This call that I made to Matt DePerno was when I was with the beginning of my time with Election Integrity Fund and Force. Matt DePerno was just trying to reach out to get some momentum for a forensic audit in Antrim. We talked for an hour, and I am telling you, I am here to tell you today, as God is my witness, Matt DePerno is the most constitutionally knowledgeable attorney I have ever talked to. Ever. And I am so proud to be on stage to introduce Mr. Matthew DePerno from the DePerno Law Offices. Welcome, Matt.
Hello. What a crowd, what a crowd. Thank you. Listen to this guy. Let's go Brandon, he says, right? Come on. Thanks to everyone for coming out today. Really, I'm pleased to be here in Lansing with all of you. Thanks to all of you patriots who took the day off and came out here to exercise your constitutional right? You know Merrick Garland, you know who that guy is, right? He recently said that getting rowdy at a school board meeting means you might be a domestic terrorist. And I'm sure he hates what he's seeing today. And I bet you Dana Nessel hates it too. Well, I say you're just exercising your First Amendment rights to assemble, right? Your First Amendment right to free speech. Your First Amendment right to redress grievances to the government, right? But I tell you this, Democrats hate the First Amendment. They hate the assembly that we're doing today. They hate the free exchange of ideas. Today is about your demand for a full forensic audit in Michigan. And we demand it because the Michigan Constitution gives us that right. Yes. Article 2, Section 4 of the Michigan Constitution, it states that every elector who votes, everyone in the state of Michigan who's qualified to vote, shall have the right to conduct an audit of the statewide election. It doesn't say maybe. It doesn't say if you ask permission. In fact, later on it states that this is a self-executing right. That means you don't need permission from the government. It also says that this section shall be liberally construed in favor of the voter. And this provision is meant to ensure the accuracy and integrity of elections. So today is about protecting individual constitutional rights of every registered voter in the state of Michigan. Whether Democrat or Republican, this should be a nonpartisan issue. Yes. So where are our elected officials today? Hiding. Right? There's only a few courageous elected officials who came out today. The rest hiding behind those walls back there, right? The vast majority are absent. They don't want to hear your redress of grievances. They don't care. They have forgotten, or maybe they never learned, that both the state and the federal constitutions anchor the fundamental right of the people to govern themselves upon the framers' intent that the means by which you choose your representatives must be of ultimate purity and primary importance. If the right to vote is not protected, all other guarantees afforded by the Constitution are irrelevant. because they are dependent upon the integrity of the franchise and the consecration of representative choice. The nation cannot survive as a constitutional republic if the government allows the transfer and adjudication of thousands of so-called votes by non-delegated, unaccountable officials without legally required oversight, or the acceptance and counting of illegitimate votes, or the rank absence of any semblance of operational integrity in the electronic systems used to process ballots and tabulate votes. If we allow the manipulation of ballots during and after they are processed, then the government cannot guarantee that the fundamental constitutional right of our citizenry is protected. And that's what we're seeing today, people. So for the last 10 months, I've been out there on the trail demanding a full audit of this entire state. I've issued subpoenas in Wayne County, Oakland County, Kent County, Macomb, Grand Traverse, Barry, Livingston, and Charlevoix. And in every one of them, all of them, their elected officials fought us in court. The elites in this state, the elected officials, they don't want you, the voter, the common man, the taxpayer, right? They don't want you to see the voting data. Am I right? Now let me give you a brief history and a few points on our voting system. Our voting system is managed by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. Our systems are tested based on that EAC guidelines testing standard established in 2005. Not one voting machine used in the 2020 election was certified beyond the 2005 standard. For reference, iPhones were not invented in 2005, and AOL CD-ROMs were still being mailed to when those current guidelines were written. So these companies accredited by the EAC to test voting systems are called voting system test laboratories, and there are only two, listen to this, two accredited by the U.S. One of them is a company called ProV&V. This means literally that any voting machine manufacturer or software company must hire one of these two companies to test their equipment prior to the election. So get that straight. The voting machine companies hire these companies to test their machines prior to the election. You think there's a reason that our government has only selected two companies?
Deep state.
The reality is that there are many qualified companies across this country that could do it. But our federal government's created a monopoly. You can't do the work unless you're certified. You can't get certified unless the government approves it. Your vote is controlled by the government. Now back to the present. Listen, all this time I have been fighting. Macomb County Clerk Anthony Ferlini has refused us access to that county. But he just announced last week that he is going to conduct an audit in Macomb County. And guess who he hired? ProV&V. So he's hiring the very same company that certified his system prior to the election. You think they're going to find any fraud? It is a clear conflict of interest. But it gets worse, people. On August 6, 2021, just a few months ago, quietly and secretly, Attorney General Dana Nessel, she quietly authored an opinion stating that Secretary of State Benson has full and sole authority to conduct audits in this state in violation of your constitutional rights. But it gets worse. Nessel told Benson that she has full and sole authorities to access voting equipment, meaning the physical examination, handling, and operating of the equipment. But it gets worse. Benson has now signed off on the Macomb County audit. You think there's a problem there? Does it sound like it's coordinated? This Macomb County Audit is an orchestrated ruse to bring in cybersecurity firms that have close ties to the voting manufacturing companies.
Maladministration, corruption.
Now let me tell you this, the 9th and 10th Amendment of the Constitution is intended to make it clear that Americans have other fundamental rights other than those set forth in the Bill of Rights. When we talk about voting rights, the United Supreme Court rulings are based on the overarching principles that the Constitution reserves to the national government only those expressly enumerated powers of Article 1. All other powers not specifically reserved are delegated to the states, and guess who? The people. Voting rights are one of those rights not reserved to the federal government, meaning they are left to the control of the states and the people. That's why Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are pushing so hard for House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 1. They understand that voting rights are reserved to the states and the people, and they don't like that. They want to take your rights, they want to make it a federal right. We have worked too long and too hard to have your efforts and your rights as Michiganders blatantly tossed aside due to cronyism and corruption. Recognizing the powers over elections are reserved to the people. We, the people, must demand transparency in Macomb County and across the entire state of Michigan. Transparency is important. The constitutional is essential. Sadly, it seems many of our elected officials, including in these buildings out here, they don't recognize the Constitution, much less celebrate it like we are today. But today we recognize that the principles of our founding fathers are as relevant today as ever and vital to the success of our democracy. As President Reagan used to remind people, the Soviet Union had a constitution too, and it even included some lofty sounding rights. Ultimately, however, those promises were just empty words because there was no rule of law to enforce them. The rule of law is the linchpin of American freedom. Ending corruption is essential to our free republic. That is why I decided to run for Attorney General. Michiganders deserve from their elected officials and should be represented by a leader who aggressively challenges infringements upon our rights, eradicates corruption, and restores the integrity of the Constitution of Michigan. The people of Michigan need the guidance of a fighter, someone who will preserve, protect, and defend our state. I have been attacked by the Democrats. I've been threatened by Dana Nessel. She thinks people who support election integrity should be criminally prosecuted. She has blatantly disregarded and shown she doesn't care anything about the First Amendment, free speech, the right to redress grievances, or freedom to assemble. I have been told, in fact demanded by our elected officials, to stop talking about this issue. I have been told to stop talking about America First values. I stood up and I fought to try to vindicate President Trump when no one else would. And yet now, after 11 months, it becomes fashionable, doesn't it, for some politicians who've never cared about this issue to start talking about it. But I tell you what, doing the right thing doesn't always make you popular. And yet here I am, running for Attorney General to restore integrity, justice, and morality in Michigan. I will defend the rights of all Michigan residents. I am unapologetically pro-life. I will protect the civil liberties of all people and restore our constitutional republic. I will protect state sovereign rights. I will defend the Second Amendment and fight any effort to attack gun rights. And I will ensure that our elections are free of fraud, free of corruption, and transparent to the people.
What I see today in Michigan disgusts me. Mask mandates, crippling shutdowns, election irregularities, corrupt politicians abusing their office, pursuing personal agendas, and not putting the people first. I will end mask mandates and unconstitutional lockdowns of businesses and churches. When Governor Whitmer and Dana Nessel shut down Michigan, and let me tell you, they will try to do it again. They said only essential people can work. And I say to you that putting food on your table is essential. I will end critical race theory across this state. It is time to take back our schools, our state, and our country. And it begins with you. Who wants to end corruption? And get in the action. Who wants your rights restored? Then get involved today. I ask you, go to my website, DePerno4mi.com. Volunteer, contribute, 5, 10, 20 bucks, whatever you think your rights are worth. Dana Nessel doesn't value your rights, but we need an army to fight. Never again will we tolerate overreach by executive directors. The Democrats and the establishment don't understand the power of the grassroots movement in Michigan. We are many, we are conservative. We love God, family, and country. And we will no longer sit back and let these Marxists and socialists and corrupt officials dictate our lives. We need to fight back now. So I challenge you, all of you, reach out to your neighbors, friends, family, loved ones, spread the word. We must join forces, pass the hat, chip in order to enact change and restore our rights as the people of Michigan. Thank you for your support, and God bless you.
Thank you so much.